be reading Curious George Visits the Dentist. Curious George was a good little monkey, but always very curious. When he visited his neighbor, Mrs. Ross, he was especially curious about her gleaming basket of fruit. The bright red apple on top looked too perfect to be true, and it was. When George discovered it whenever he bit into it, and it was hard and sticky, not sweet. "Oh dear," said Miss Ross. "That was not a real apple, George. It was made out of wax." George's tooth began to hurt. "You should always ask before eating something, George," the Aunt the Yellow Hat reminded him. By the time he went to bed, George's tooth was less sore, but the next morning his tooth was wobbly. His mouth felt so strange that George couldn't even enjoy his favorite pancake breakfast. "We should see the dentist, George. She can make sure the tooth of yours is all right." The man explained that the dentist was a doctor for teeth, but George didn't want anybody to touch his tooth. What if it hurt? George walked alongside the path to the doctor's office with his friends, his steps getting slower and slower until he ran off to pick a daisy. "It's very pretty," said the man, chasing after George. "We have an appointment, and we shouldn't be late. You'll be a good little monkey, won't you?" George nodded. He always wanted to be good. In the waiting room was a welcoming place. There was lots of things to see and do. One by one, young pixies were called away by a woman in a white suit. George watched them go through a red door, each holding onto a grown-up's hand. One frightened boy was carried by his mother. George was glad he wouldn't have to see the dentist all by himself. "George, you're next," the woman announced. George was sad to put down his book, but he was also a little curious about where the children were going. Was there a play area on the other side? The exam room was not filled with toys, but it was still interesting. There was a sink and a long chair for lying down on, and a stool for the dentist, and a light above the chair. George was curious. Why were there two faucets in the room? Hello, George. I am Dr. Wang, and it's nice to meet you," she said. "Why don't you lie down and we take a look at your teeth?" George saw a row of silver dental exam tools on the counter. They were long, shiny, and pointy. He hid behind the man. "George, would you like me to try out the chair first?" the man asked. "Good idea," said Dr. Wang. The man laid down. "Open your mouth wide." The doctor shined a big light down the man's mouth. Then she took out a white and small instrument to take a closer look at each tooth. "It's a mouth mirror." George watched. It didn't look too scary. "Next, I'll count the teeth," Dr. Wang told George. She picked out one of those sharp, pointy tools. "It's an explorer. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then the man exclaimed, "Ow!" "Uh-oh," said the dentist. George ran away. He left the exam room, scurried down the hall. There were so many doors, he didn't know which one was the way out. He tried a door and walked into another exam room. "A monkey!" cried a little girl and jumped off the exam chair in excitement as George backed out of the room. He continued down the hall, opening up doors and disturbing patients. In one room, a scared little boy from the reception area was crying. George had an idea. He jumped onto a table and began juggling of some dentist floss, and then the boy stopped crying and smiled. Next, George leaped into the into the sink in the middle of the room. He pushed a button, and a nearby jet sprayed water all across the room. George squirted it into his own mouth and the boy's mouth too. Next, George decided to switch on the overhead lamp, but the lamp tumbled over, spilling George safely across the on the floor. The boy clapped, but Dr. Wang stood in the doorway. George, you naughty monkey, Dr. Wang said. What a mess you've made. This monkey was only trying to get Tyler to stop crying, said the boy's mother. She said, it does look like we have some eager young patients. If it weren't for you, George, I wouldn't have found a cavity in your friend's mouth. As soon as Dr. Wang looked into George's mouth, she laughed. Why, George, all you have is a loose tooth. A loose tooth sounded like something worrisome to George. It's going to fall out soon. And then a new permanent tooth right behind. There's a new permanent tooth right behind it. Looks like you've been doing a good job brushing your teeth. George jumped on his chair. He did brush every night and morning. Keep on brushing your teeth and don't eat too many sweets, the doctor reminded him. You want your teeth to be in good shape for the tooth fairy. George waved goodbye to his new friend, and then he went home with a new toothbrush, dental floss, and some instructions for his loose tooth. He should bite into as many hard apples as he can, as long as they were real, of course. He decided that he didn't mind going to the dentist. That night, he had a healthy dinner with an apple for dessert. His tooth fell out with the second bite. He put his tooth under the pillow. The next morning, George found a special coin in the tooth's place. When Miss Ross came to check on George that afternoon, George proudly showed his coin from the tooth fairy. George laughed and said, "That's a quick way to lose a tooth, but I wouldn't recommend it next time." Well, that was the end of Curious George Visits the Dentist. Please hit the like button, and subscribe for more children's books read aloud daily. Bye!